Thanks, guys. All right. This is actually my talk. I was just going to leave this up for a while and let it go. All right, well, let's get started. So, thanks for coming, everybody. As Vic mentioned, I've got the Advanced Reconnaissance Framework. A little bit more about me. Obviously, I'm Solray, member of FAIL, cyber pathologist, because of course. And then I've just got a whole bunch of certs that nobody actually cares about. So let's get on with it. So this framework is kind of something that I've been working on for quite some time now. I originally came up with the idea after helping some people do a couple OSINT research side projects that they were working on. Through some of that research that we were doing, there was kind of a number of pain points that we had and some things that I just didn't really think needed to be pain points for something that is as easy as OSINT research. And for those that may not know, OSINT, open source intelligence, it's basically searching the internet for things that are just freely available, gathering information, gathering data. It's extremely useful for all kinds of things. Recon phase of pen testing, cyber attribution, all the good stuff. So after going through some of that and a handful of conversations with some of my friends later and kind of talking, bouncing the idea around, this project was born. So obviously the most important part of any project is to name it. So the first name that I came up with was the FAIL's Elaborate Labor-Saving Legit.cn Application for Threat Intelligence Obtainment. But that acronym didn't really work out as well as I had hoped, so we just decided to call it the Advanced Reconnaissance Framework. Tried to keep it simple. So as I started trying to figure out how I wanted to do this, really wanted to kind of try to simplify some of the workflow and not put documentation around it, but was having some of the pain we were having, right, was going through, you have a piece of data. You have an email address. What can I do with it? There's a countless number of tools that you can use that I'm sure a lot of folks are familiar with. You can go, take that email address, search for other pieces of data. You'll start to get back usernames, domain names, you name it. You can start to work through a lot of things. You're going to find more email addresses and circle back around and start over. So I spent a couple hours on one of the projects I was working on, and I started to map this out as like a workflow diagram. Quickly realized that it ended up looking like this, and it was just a complete friggin' disaster. Most OSINT research is far too dynamic. You're going to search for an email address today, and you're going to find somebody's name. You're going to search for it tomorrow with a different email address, and you're going to find wildly different things. So trying to do it in a workflow style just wasn't going to be something that would actually make anything better. So I kind of scrapped that whole project, just immediately threw it in the trash and started trying to think about how I could organize the stuff that we had into something that would actually be a little bit more useful for people. And I was really struggling with that for a while, but luckily Matt and I walked into a conference room. Matt's another one of the FAIL guys. I've worked with him for a while, but walked into a conference room after what was clearly just an incredibly critical meeting. And just the answer was there, staring me in the face. It was a light bulb moment. If I needed an OSINT program, I just had to develop the program, and then I would have a program. It was perfect. So light bulb moment went off. I knew exactly what I needed to do. Went back and just furiously started working on it. So what I ended up with was I started making a mind map, and I spent just a stupid amount of time dropping stuff into this mind map. Obviously, this isn't meant to be readable. It's not even really meant to be used as a final product. But just started, it kind of helped the development process of the program, right? This was develop program phase and ended up with kind of at least coming with more of, that's not easy to read at all. But it ended up coming up with kind of an organizational structure, at least, for the resources and tools out there for OSINT research. So I broke stuff up into these categories, and then we kind of moved on from there. So Let's take a step back real quick before I show the tool, and kind of talk about goals for OSN research. Really, anytime you're going to start a new project where you need to do some information gathering, I highly suggest you sit down, take 5 minutes, and really think about what are your goals. Are you looking for a certain piece of data? When you're going to go develop or when you go finish that report and hand it in, what needs to be inside the report for that report to be a success? Option number one is find all the things, right? This is absolutely a possible goal, usually quite entertaining. I love just how terrible everyone is at privacy. It makes my job quite entertaining. A little bit more often, you're probably gonna go with option number two, which is like a specific data goal, whether it's you're trying to find somebody's real name, some contact information, location. If it's a little bit more technical, you might be looking for a malware family or author of a malware. You might be looking for all the websites that a company owns or all the product information on it. It could be all kinds of different things. 99% of the time, though, when I'm sitting down for getting ready to start a new OSN project, this is my goal. I'm really looking for all the things that you're trying to hide from your mom. When I write my report and I hand my report in, I want that reaction. When I get that reaction, I know I've won and I'm just going to go home for the day. Realistically, though, time is really going to be the number one limiting factor anytime you sit down to do OSN research. Whether it's a work-related project, red team are doing recon, or if it's doing threat intelligence, or even if it's just like a fun side project, right? Time's always going to be the crunch. You only have so much time that you're going to be able to invest into this one set of research. So take that into consideration. If you've got 2 hours to do something, you're obviously not going to put in the same level of effort as you have 40 hours or unlimited time. Having the luxury of unlimited time is extremely rare. So just make sure you take that into account when you're getting started. So, and then one kind of final disclaimer before you do research on the internet. OPSEC, right? Operational security. Know what it is. Know how to do it. You don't want to be these people. It sucks. Obviously, the one on your right over there is not her fault that her OPSEC was breached. It's still going to suck to be that person. And then the one over here on the right was just brilliant, of a lady who was super excited for winning a lotto. So naturally, you do as one does, and you post a picture of yourself with your lotto ticket on Facebook so all your friends and family can share in the joy of your moment, share in your winnings, or take them all. So when she went to go turn in her winning lotto ticket, they kindly informed her that somebody else had already brought the ticket in for her and collected all of her money. So she kind of was not so happy. So don't be these people. I'm not going to cover OPSEC in this talk at all. There's lots of other guides on the internet, talks at other conferences that have been done about OPSEC, and they're very good. So go do your own research on OPSEC, learn how to implement it, and then absolutely critical, test it. Right? A lot of OPSEC is technical, can be highly technical at times. There's a lot of weird bugs that have come out that your browser or your system can leak information about you while you're surfing various websites without any idea, without any knowledge, right? It's not something, it's no longer just as easy as popping on Tor or an anonymous VPN and doing research. There's more that goes into it. So go do some research, learn, rinse, repeat, do it again. Back to that terrible potato picture. So this is essentially phase one of the project in all its glory. As you dig around, I'll do a site demo here in a second, but as we dig around on the site, you'll see that there's kind of an unreasonable number of resources in some of the categories. I think at last count, I was over 200, 250-ish tools or resources that are linked off of this. I have another 300 to 400 or so that I'm going to try to put in there over the next couple weeks. Again, time being a problem, and I'm super lazy, so it might be a while. As you're going through your research, right, the intention, and you'll see this too as I actually pull up the site, but the intention is not really to use every single tool in each category for a particular piece of data. Take that time into account. A lot of the tools you're going to get a lot of duplicate results on, but all the tools are in here because at some point or another, I have found different results on that particular tool than I did on all the rest of them. There might be 15 things to search for a username, but 14 of them might give you the same result, and that 15th one, might give you something new that you haven't seen before. So let me get this back up and running here. Now that happened. Where's my mouse? Mouse, come back. There we are. All right, so here we are. So I've got a website up for it now. It's osnframework.com. This is my crappy stolen code. So there are some bugs with it, but bear with me. I'm terrible at coding and learning and trying to get some of the stuff going, but it works, so it was good enough for me. So as you kind of dig around on here and click on any of the categories, you'll start to see some other stuff pop up, and you can dive into each of these. This is going to work out well. You can dive into each of these categories and just basically start to play with the tools that are on here. Spend some time on it. If you're trying to look for a specific thing, spend some time inside of that category, pull up the tools, look through them, just like everything else, right? Learn the tools you're going to use for the job you've got, and then that's the. You gotta know what you're doing if you're going to be successful. So we'll do a quick demo here. Usernames are going to be one of the most common things you get for if you're trying to do research on a particular target. So a lot of people might not know there's actually specific username search engines. These are kind of fantastic. It goes kind of above and beyond what something like Google would do. You should absolutely, if you have a username, throw it in Google and see what you get for results. But there are, search engines built specifically for usernames that are kind of handy to do something as well. So just in this example, we'll try this one. Let's see, we'll look for, who should we look for? Jeff Hart Roberts, that's a good one. I've got a good one here. There we go. Lost my cursor. Mr. Pimp Good Game. So, hypothetically saying, let's say Mr. Pimp Good Game is our target. You drop it into a username search engine. First thing this one does is look for domain names that are available. Everything's available because that's a ridiculous username. And then starts to go through a bunch of really popular sites too. So you can see everything that's on here. The idea behind this particular one is as it's displaying to you, if it's grayed out, it means that username is already in existence at that particular site or service. The ones that are not grayed out, it's still available. So it's kind of good if you're doing your own thing, right? If you're trying to figure out where your username is or one that you're trying to use, you can see, something that somebody else may have already, snagged it up everywhere. So, for this particular site also gives, links. So you can click on the Instagram one and it'll take you straight to his page. Mr. Pimp Good Game is, of course, the leader of the selfie movement and takes like a bajillion pictures of his head in the exact same position for I don't know why. So you find some fun stuff. What's that? Yeah, I liked him, wouldn't you? This guy's fantastic. So. All right, so anyways, that's kind of just a quick example of how you could kind of work through the framework. Take the piece of information you have, figure out which category is most appropriate for it, dive into that category, check out the tools that are listed in there, and start to populate it through and go from there. Let me get back to my slides. All right, so images. Oh man, images are one of my favorites. So I grabbed these off the internet to put in my slides because obviously for a number of reasons I can't use any of the images I found while doing some work for my clients. But let's just say that you've won when your report can include nudes of the target's girlfriend or So, man, people are so bad at images. It's unreal. The amount of things that I found that are absolutely like emotionally or morally compromising for a particular target is wonderful. It absolutely makes my day, absolutely every time. It's what makes my job fun. So best thing so really kind of how you can use this too, there's a bunch of great tools in the framework for doing image searching. Reverse image searching is fantastic. I'm sure most people know what that is, but if you don't, you can actually take the image itself if you find it somewhere else, and then you're basically uploading the image to a search engine, and it's looking for everywhere else that image has been found. That's fantastic if you're trying to track a particular person. Search for their avatars if they got like their avatar posted somewhere on a forum or a website. It's a good way. I've been able to really expand coverage on a particular target because they might have one username that you found on a forum one place, and then that username search comes up with almost nothing else. I go and take the guy's avatar, search for his avatar, and found 10 other forums where he's used the exact same avatar and something similar to the username, right? A couple of numbers changed or wherever else, and it really can quickly greatly expand the results you're getting. Metadata in images too is fantastic. It's just wonderful. So a lot of sites now, a lot of the popular like social networking sites, Facebook and Craigslist and stuff, they're stripping out metadata for people because people are dumb and don't do that themselves. So this image is from Craigslist, and I've done this example before. It was years ago where I found a guy selling a bike, and it was a picture of it out sitting in front of his garage, and it was really small and zoomed in on the bike, and you couldn't see much. But this was before Craigslist started stripping the metadata. It was download the picture, look at the metadata, surprise, location data's in there, pull it up on Google Maps, take a look at it. Yep, that's the exact same garage I see in the picture, and that was a win, right? That report was a success. So now that the websites are starting to automatically do that for them, well, you just have to try a little bit harder, right? So we take this picture of the boat. Guy's got his phone number on there. I text him. I said, hey, man, I was very interested in your boat. Like to know a little bit more about it. I'm not at my computer really quick. Can you send me a picture of it again? So he texted me the picture that he uploaded to Craigslist. Surprise! Now I have all the metadata again, location info, and now I know where it's parked. So that was, it's just, people are fun. So it turns out this was actually like a boat restoration place that, sold used boats also. And after pulling down that image data, it actually matched. I don't know if you can see there's a little bit of a phone number up in there, and the image restoration place and the phone number matched. So with the location data, so yes, another win. Love people. Telephone numbers are oh man, they're probably my new favorite thing, almost entirely because of mobile numbers and how everything is going to cell phones. Everything is app related, it's mobile related. So, and it's like apparently when we decided to make everything on mobile phones, we forgot everything we've ever done about application security all over again. So we're starting from scratch. So, yeah. Craigslist creeper, this one's fun. So, side note real quick on this one before I dive into it. Bunch of tools in the framework for telephone numbers, right? And this is what I'm trying to do is give some examples of it. Very important before you're trying to do any sort of research project. Take a look at the tools in there and learn how they operate. Search for yourself. Search for some other, willing participant. Make sure you're doing legal stuff or don't. It's fine. I won't stop you. Whoever said crime doesn't pay was a liar. I track criminals for a job and they make a shit ton of money. So you should do crime is basically the moral of the story. Yeah, sure. That's fine. If you can find me. Nah. Right. Yeah, turns out I'm not hard to find either. So 2 or 3 weeks ago, it's the weekend. I'm bored. I should have been working on my talk, but of course, like I said, I'm lazy, so I didn't. So I wanted a little bit of fun and entertainment. So, you do what everybody does at the time, and you pull up Craigslist, and you see what's available. So I found my friend Candy here. She's offers companionship. For some reason, she really likes roses. She's something about like you could eat her booty for like it was groceries for 40 roses, and I didn't really know why you would want to do that, but you know, I went with it. So grabbed her phone number, did a little bit of research on my friendly companion here, Candy, and then give her a call. She says, "Hi, Candy. You know, how can I help?" And yeah, so I responded back to her, and when I said, "Hi, Amanda," the conversation got awkward really fast. She wanted to know how I knew her name, and I mean, I just told her I knew who she was, and where did I know her from? And I said, well, you know, we went to Cedar Ridge High School together. You don't remember? And then she started to get a little bit more concerned and asked how I got the number. And then when I said that, you know, her mom gave it to me, she really freaked out and then hung up. So Candy didn't want to be my friend or companion. So I was sad. I think my wife was happy. But my wife likes roses too, but not those roses. So another example, same deal, right? Somebody selling jewelry. Kind of go through this one a little bit quicker, but basically the idea is someone's selling jewelry, absolutely no information about them, except the phone number. Pull up the phone number, take a look, and you find all kinds of stuff. You can find out who the carrier is, you can find out the city, you can eventually find all your way down to email addresses and names and Facebook profiles. And obviously they're selling their engagement ring and wedding ring, so you know they're getting a divorce, and it's it's good times. All right, so I already covered usernames. Basically, usernames are going to be one of your most common ones, which is probably why I'm harping on it. Email addresses are also fantastic and going to be another one of the common ones. So if you get an email address, there's a bunch of email-specific tools in here. Search for it everywhere you can find. You know, sometimes you're going to end up with nothing. A lot of times you're going to end up with duplicate information as the other tools. Sometimes you're going to kind of, get lucky and win the jackpot. Just don't post a picture of it on Facebook. So you never know what you're going to find, right? And that's kind of the whole point of this. When you're developing some of this stuff and writing reports, it's really interesting when you can add all the extra details about the person. When you can start to talk about who they are, who their family is, their friends, the relationships they have, what sort of hobbies they have. Amazon's great for hobbies, right? So, hypothetical situation. Let's say I had a target. Let's say my friend Bob had a target, and just doing his thing as Bob does some research on the target, finds a bunch of email addresses. Also happens to find the target's wife's email address. Runs it through the tools in the framework, finds a couple things, but adds it to his report. Nothing too exciting. Starts running the email addresses through Amazon just to see if any of them have registered for stuff or signed up for a wish list. So, turns out Bob's target's wife email address did indeed have a wish list. So, when you pulled it up and you find that his wife had a plus-size strap-on harness on her Amazon wish list, then you get to put in your report that Bob probably has, or that the target probably has a hobby of pegging. Maybe. Maybe not. You never know. Makes it fun, though. It's the best. So, all right, privilege escalation through mobile emulation. Mobile emulation. That's a really fancy bunch of bullshit to say that mobile apps are fun, right? We've forgotten everything about how security works because mobile is a brand new environment, and why should we repeat things that we've learned the hard way? Mobile apps are OP. They're overpowered. Holy crap. So a lot of sites, a lot of social networks and stuff are starting to get a little bit better with privacy and things. If find somebody's phone number or email address and try to search for it in a particular social network, you may or may not get results, even if they have a profile registered and tied to that address or phone number. This could be usually due to the person's privacy settings on their profile. With most people right, you're gonna get hits right away because people are dumb and they don't care. But other times, people have their privacy settings a little bit more locked down, and you search for something and you don't find it. It sucks to not find stuff, especially if you try to write in a report that they don't have Facebook, when they do indeed have Facebook, and Facebook is that's the gold mine, right? That's what ties everything together, and you've got everything on the person. So mobile apps are really kind of what can tie this together. Turns out if you emulate a mobile app or a mobile phone and install all the favorite social network messaging, you name it, Snapchat, Facebook, there's a bajillion friggin' social networks out there that are stupid and highly specific. But load up those on your emulated mobile phone, and then take whatever contact details you have for that particular person and put it in your contacts for your phone. Because as soon as then you pull up your mobile app and you say, please find my friends and look at my contacts, the app goes, this guy's got their contact information already in his phone. Clearly they must be real life friends. We're gonna bypass all that privacy stuff in the search and pull the person's profile up anyway. Surprise. Obviously we're friends. You're in my contacts. So that doesn't work with all of them, but there's a fair number that it does, and it just lets you right in. So for the boring stuff, documentation, right? If you're working through the framework, right, there's a stupid amount of tools in there. You're going to find just an unreasonable amount of information on whatever your target is. So documentation becomes critical quickly. Because I worked on that big old just mess of a mind map thing, I started trying to do some documentation in mind maps, and it's working out all right. I'm not sure if it's something I'm going to stick with, but I basically took my major categories for the mind map and left it as my default documentation template, and then as I find new details, that fits, as I find each IP address or URL or whatever, I just drop it into, the categories, just so I can track it all, because you're going to quickly get overwhelmed with how much stuff you can find. Most important thing here too is, as you're doing this, come up with some way for you to identify or mark the information that you've already completed research on versus the stuff you haven't. Because you're going to start with an email address and do all the digging on it and find 3 more emails, and you're going to find a whole bunch of other stuff, and then you move on to usernames or websites or pick a thing, and then you start looking at your documentation again and you go, shit, now I've got 8 email addresses. I think I searched all the way for 4 of them, maybe. But what about these other ones? And it just gets confusing, right? So mark it a different color, find checkbox, figure something out that works for you to mark what actual data points you've completed research on. A lot of folks that I know do this sort of work, just full on screen capture all the time. Nothing sucks more than finding just a gold mine of information for whoever your target is and not documenting it and moving on, and then going back and finding they deleted their Twitter account or they got banned and you can't get that information anymore. That sucks a lot, and I've done that because I'm stupid. And lazy and don't document properly. Hunchly is another awesome thing. That's actually it's a tool that's in beta right now. It's not mine, but it's made by another guy who does a lot of awesome work with Python and automating a lot of open source intelligence stuff. I highly recommend you check that one out. It's the only thing that I've got in here that's not a free tool. Like I said, it's in beta and it requires a purchase. But what he's done is he's basically built a plugin for the browser that will kind of track and record. It's toggleable, right? You can turn it on and off, but it'll track and record everything that you're doing through your research project, and then drops it all into a easily searchable dashboard. You can just Control F, find, search for the text you're looking for, pull it right back up, pictures and images, and it's fantastic. It saves a lot of those oops moments where you were lazy. So documenting maps, there's a bunch of cool stuff you can do in here to kind of add some fanciness to your presentations. If you find a bunch of location data points, map them out on Google Maps or something and throw that in there. So kind of just the idea, right, is there's a bunch of quick examples for the kinds of tools and things that are in the framework, right? There's way more than I'm able to cover in a presentation. And the idea behind this is this is new. I'd like to get it out and try to get, some feedback on it, get some folks starting to use it, and let me know what they think about it. Kind of there's basically three major ideas behind it right now in terms of use. One's the website, which I showed you guys already. Another one is there's a GitHub site that's got a JSON file, which is basically just all the bookmarks for all the links that are in the website. So basically, you could just go and take that JSON file, import it direct into your browser, and have all the bookmarks local to you there. The third one that we're working on is a Chrome extension. And again, I told you I'm really bad at coding, so this for me was a long-term goal. And not something that I had any intention of having ready for CarolinaCon. Luckily, it helps to have smart friends. Treefort, you guys saw the last presentation last night. That's my buddy Treefort, and he actually, talking to him just trying to get some development ideas and bounce some of my development retardedness off of him to, try to get some of my other stuff going a little bit faster. Talked to him about this extension a little bit, and I guess he got bored one night and couldn't sleep and whipped together a starter version for us for a Chrome extension. So the idea behind this, and it's awesome. Can't thank him enough for it. So like I said, though, it is, it's like not even version 1 yet. There's a lot more ideas that we have and things that we want to do with it, and I got to stop sucking so hard at coding so I can help out more instead of make things a mess. But the idea behind the Chrome extension was really, I made the website as quick reference, right? If you're doing a thing, you need to find a quick tool for a certain category, jump on the website, find it, pull it down, use it, and move on, right? But if you do the research on a day-to-day basis where you're going to spend a lot of hours diving into a specific thing, to me, the more useful format was the local bookmarks. So import the JSON file and have that local. But when I was thinking about it, I'm like, that's good and all, but realistically thinking about somebody else using it, if I were to do it, if somebody else put this out and I were to go grab those bookmarks, I'm not going to ever go update it. Maybe this is just me with my laziness theme again, but I'm going to go update it when I'm trying to search for a thing and the tools are all broken or dead or whatever, and it's 18 months down the road, and I'm frustrated, and I'm like, I should go find out if this thing's got updates, and there's been 300 updates since the last time I did it. So Chrome extension here is really the idea behind fixing that problem. Something that you can install, have automatic updating, right? So as new tools come into the framework, they automatically will populate inside of your browser, have search capability inside of it, and be able to, look for a certain tool or a certain link or resource that you're trying to get to. Like I said, they've got a lot more ideas that we want to add in here and hopefully really kind of crank it up to start to work towards automation on some of the stuff as well. But that's future work. That's phase 2. So again, feedback is going to be awesome. It's really going to kind of drive the direction of where hours are spent on improving this. Some other ideas were, or some things we have on the to-do list for the Chrome extension would be, allow for other tool suggestions straight from the extension itself. Like I said, so this is up on GitHub, so you're absolutely willing to, send a pull request if you've got a bunch of other sites and tools that I don't have listed. That would be awesome. I would love that. As well as, the way the Chrome extension works, I should have covered this a little bit better a second ago, but the way the Chrome extension works is it basically just looks in your bookmarks file to see if there's a folder called ARF, short for the Advanced Recon Framework. If you don't have one, it creates one for you and drops all the bookmarks in there. It's simple and basic today. The unfortunate issue with that at the moment is it makes it hard for, if you do that and then you have a tool that fits in here that's not in the framework, it'd be nice to go drag it and put it in the categories. But that makes the updating of it and stuff hard. So we're going to set it up at some point here to be able to ignore your own customizations and bookmarks, and then allow for you to offer suggestions that maybe everybody else wants to know about that tool too. Firefox extension, maybe. I don't know. Depends on feedback, how much other folks would be interested in that. Additional website content, potentially a rating system for tools and resources, some descriptions of them and specializations. I think that bottom part is especially kind of key for a lot of these sites. The whole focus of this is everything in here is free, right? None of these resources cost money. A lot of them are what I'd call freemium, which is they give you teaser data, right? You search for something, you get a little bit of results back, and they swear you can have a complete background check if you just pay them money. I don't ever do that, and I don't think you should either, because there's enough resources out there where you can gather all that information for free anyway. That said, right, it's the descriptions would really help for that, right, to get through the freemium stuff. And then automation, right? So this is phase one. Automation was honestly where I wanted to go from the beginning of this. But when I started looking at all of it, I realized that aggregation of all the tools and resources in a format that wasn't the complete disaster that I had it in already really had to be step one. Starting to work on some automation stuff now that this stuff is in at least a workable format. And it's simple, right? I mean, so the only thing that we've started to do, or the only thing that I've done so far has been like just a JavaScript bookmarklet for the usernames. So if it allows for you to highlight somebody's username, punch the bookmarklet, it'll automatically open all of the username search engines and take the highlighted text as input and automatically search for all that. So you'll end up with 10 open tabs with the content already searched for, the username already searched for, and then you can just click through them, scrape out any data you need to document, and then close them as you go. So we'll end up what I want to do is I want to do a lot more of that, a lot more of the automation for automating the search pieces at least, and then it'd be nice to eventually kind of automate the data collection end of it as well. But that's a lot of work. So please use it, send feedback on anything, absolutely anything. Tell me my organization sucks, tell me the workflow is retarded, whatever it is. Other automation ideas, as you're using it, tell me what your pain points are, right? Because the intention of this is to make doing these types of projects easier. If there are still other pain points, maybe it's not something I can fix right away, but maybe that's where a tool needs to be written or a script needs to be written for some automation. I'd love that. I'd be totally fine with having a to-do list a mile long and kind of going through it. So, this pretty much wraps up my presentation. If anybody has questions, fire away. I'll be around all weekend too, so please, come up, introduce yourself. I'd love to talk to you about this and get feedback and your other ideas and thoughts on it. Also, make sure to stick around for the next talk. This is CarolinaCon's very own Strayan, who's going to be giving the next talk. And I've been told that he's going to give a bloody banger talk this Arvo where he plans to drop heaps of good oil about reversing iOS apps before he goes and hits the terps. So I have no friggin' idea what any of that shit means, but maybe by the end of the next talk we'll have a better idea. Yeah, that's it. Any questions? I would imagine highly offensive, but you're probably not going to understand any of it. Yeah. So I almost got my website banned or my account suspended because they called me being all friendly and, new client, whatever. Wanted to know how the website was, told me it looked fancy, asked if I designed it. No, I stole all of it. He didn't know how to handle that. And then asked me what it was, and I told him that it was a tool for doxing people. So that led to an interesting conversation. I had a high suspicion my website was not going to be up anymore until I moved it again. But doxing's a thing, right? It's going to happen. It's shitty if it happens to you. But it comes back to typical security problems, right? People need to learn to not be dumb with their data on the internet. It sucks with all the data breaches going on because you can't control that, right? But that's, companies need to get better at controlling that. It's hopeless. I don't know. Doxing's going to happen, and it's really hard to prevent against it. That's the whole thing. So I've got a couple of things that I've considered doing in terms of trying to make doxing harder, like against myself. I haven't done any of them because I decided I didn't care that much. So there are absolutely things you can do to get your footprint on the internet to be less if it's already out there. You know, some sites and stuff will pull data down. It's hard. A lot of them won't do it. Really the best method there is populating fake data. You know, go sign up for a bunch of things under your real name with fake addresses, and then when those places get popped, or you know, they sell that data to advertisers, then when you look up for your name on some of these things and suddenly see that there's, you know, 45 of you in 6 different states, it makes it harder for somebody trying to that has you as a target to pull that which data is actually real. You know, your real data will still be there, but which one is the real data? Yeah, so that's a good question. So the question for everybody else was, doing this research is kind of a breadth over depth problem, right? It's what's my workflow on it? And I'm going to say it kind of really depends on my time. And that's really going to be, if I have a username or a particular data point, do I search that to, you know, to the end and just document all the additional data points that I found on it? Before I move into those other categories and those other tools, or do I, you know, just kind of spin through? And it's really going to depend on my time and how much time I get to spend on it. My preference would be to you know, burn that one completely. If I have a username, exhaust all my possible research effort on it, and then move on to the next thing. But I'm ADD as hell, and that almost never happens. But primarily it's going to come back to how much time you have. Anything else? All right. Like I said, if you come up with something later, feel free to come up, talk. We'll have some fun. So that's it.